In a narrow mountain pass known as Thermopylae, 300 warriors stood defiantly against an empire, outnumbered, surrounded, yet unbroken. This is their story. The Rise of Sparta, a warrior society. Sparta was not just a city, it was a way of life, built on discipline, forged by warfare, and governed by a military code that began at birth. Spartan boys were taken from their homes at the age of 7 and trained in the agoge, a brutal system that turned children into elite warriors. By the time a Spartan reached adulthood, he was expected to be a living weapon, fearless, loyal, and utterly dedicated to the state. In Sparta, there was no room for weakness, no tolerance for cowardice. In a world where most Greek city-states embraced democracy, art, and philosophy, Sparta stood apart, an oligarchic society obsessed with strength, order, and survival. The Persian Threat, a world at war. In 480 BC, King Xerxes of Persia launched a massive invasion of Greece, his ambition to conquer the entire Greek world and expand the vast Persian Empire even further west. With hundreds of thousands of soldiers, archers, cavalry, war elephants, and ships, Xerxes crossed the Hellespont with one of the greatest armies the world had ever seen. City after city fell or surrendered, intimidated by the sheer size of the Persian force. The Greeks knew they had to unite or perish, but rivalries among the city-states made unity difficult. Only a few were willing to fight, and none were as bold or as willing to die as the Spartans. Leonidas, the warrior, King Leonidas of Sparta, answered the call. But due to religious festivals and political constraints, he was only allowed to bring a small personal guard, 300 elite Spartan warriors. These were not ordinary men. Each one had a son, ensuring their bloodline would survive even if they did not. They knew the mission was suicide, and yet they marched voluntarily toward certain death. They were joined by a few thousand allies from other Greek city-states, including Thespians and Thebans. But at the heart of this last stand were Leonidas and his 300. The Battle of Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, was a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea, a natural bottleneck that nullified the Persian numerical advantage. Here, for 3 days, the Spartans and their allies held the line. Clad in bronze armor, armed with long spears and unwavering resolve, they fought off wave after wave of Persian attacks. Even the elite Persian immortals, Xerxes' personal guard, were defeated by the Greek phalanx, a wall of shields and spears honed to deadly precision. The Spartans fought not just with strength, but with tactics. Their discipline and training turned the narrow pass into a killing ground, betrayal and sacrifice. But their stand would not last forever. A local Greek named Ephialtes betrayed the defenders by revealing a hidden path through the mountains. Xerxes sent his troops around the pass to encircle the Greeks. Leonidas was warned. He had a choice: retreat or fight to the death. He chose the latter. He dismissed most of the allies, keeping only the 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans. They would fight to the last man, buying time for the rest of Greece to prepare, and so they did. The legacy of the 300 Leonidas fell in battle. His body was mutilated by the Persians in anger and shame, but the stand of the 300 inspired a nation. Their sacrifice became a rallying cry. A few months later, at the Battle of Salamis and then at Plataea, the Greeks pushed back the Persians and eventually won the war. The story of the 300 Spartans became legend, not just for their bravery, but for what they represented: resistance against tyranny, the power of unity, and the courage to fight for freedom, no matter the odds. Centuries have passed since their last breath. The pass of Thermopylae is quiet now, but in the silence, the legacy of Leonidas and his 300 still echoes. They remind us that the strength of a few can change the fate of many.